Stop me if you've heard this before, but if you're a uni student and you're, well, looking for something to do to bolster your resume, you'll hear people tell you one of several things. Go for an internship, start working on open source projects, or just do your own passion projects. In this video, I'm more interested in the last one. Passion projects. What does that entail? What does that mean? Now, I'm not saying any of you are passionless, right? But some people really don't have ideas what to do. What exactly is a passion project? What should I do for fun? So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to share several passion projects that I have been working on recently. Coding projects that can be very simple, that can do a lot of things. And my goal today is hopefully to inspire you a little bit or to just give you a little bit of ideas on what you can potentially try if you have the free time to do so. So hopefully that's an interesting topic for you. More on this after the break. Hello and welcome back to another Random Wednesday episode. So, this first thing I'm going to talk about is something we have looked very in-depth before, so I'm just going to quickly summarize as well as to tell you how things have gone since then. This project is the exercise bike project that I've covered in the past. To start off with, here's my motivation. I am a little bit heavier than I like to be, so I thought, I can do some exercise while I'm in front of a computer. To that end, I have an exercise bike under my table. I've rigged it up with an Arduino Nano, which essentially gives me, 2 reed switches to detect as I pedal. I wanted to make it fun for myself, right? So this signal is sent to my computer, and my computer can do a variety of fun things. For example, I can virtually cycle using Google Maps. I can place myself into any part of the world, right? I've cycled in Japan, I've cycled in Switzerland, I've cycled in Singapore for whatever reason, even though I can actually do that if I want to. Basically you can virtually cycle anywhere in the world. I've even added further things to track metrics and so on. All this just to inspire myself to cycle a little bit more. At my peak, I have been cycling, upwards of 1,000 calories worth a day. That's not a very common thing, and I have not lost any weight. But hell, it's a chance to get me to move, so whatever. Here are some of my latest developments on that project, especially for those of you who followed it nearly 2 years back when I started on this project. I've now created essentially an entire dashboard in a spare tablet that I have, and it's just lying around. I don't really do the virtual cycling thing anymore because I like to cycle in the background while I'm doing something else. But this little dashboard on my second screen is a nice, non-intrusive way for me to, see myself pedal, right? See all the numbers that I've collected, and also several other things. This is an app written in Cordova. It talks to my desktop over WebSockets. I know it's convoluted. But yeah, I can use it to control my music. I can even use it to set these little sprint timers. I like to do these sprints where, for that however long I want to sprint for, I will close down all distractions. I'll just do the thing I'm supposed to be doing. So that's pretty cool. That is completely wireless, right? It communicates over Wi-Fi. And when it gets dark at night, it automatically switches over to night mode. It uses the light sensor on the tablet itself. And it changes the CSS of the page so it becomes dark. I'm pretty proud of that, to be honest. So that's my little dashboard. It no longer takes up any space on my screen. And I can just sort of cycle in the background. Reason why I'm sharing that is because, above and beyond being a passion project, it's also something that keeps myself healthy. I think given the way I eat, that's probably quite required. And of course, as computer folk, we don't stand up, we don't move around very much. So that's good to have. Having this full suite of things that go around, the exercise bike also makes it more interesting, right? All my paddling information is stored in the small SQLite, database. I can use it to, do whatever calculations I want to at any point of time. I like data. I like playing with data. I like spotting patterns in data. So, that's another plus. Speaking of data, there is another project that I'm doing as well that's a little bit more sensitive. It involves my location. My work nowadays brings me to many different places, right? For example, I teach at several different schools, so I go to those campuses. I teach home tuition. In fact, I'm going for one in a few hours, where I go to people's house and I teach them stuff and then I leave. So yeah, I move around a lot. What I like to see is essentially a map of all the different places I go to, color-coded by some kind of metric. I have an app on my phone that basically keeps track of my GPS location at all times. It takes samples every couple of seconds, which surprisingly uses little battery. At the end of the day, it throws out a gigantic CSV file, which I then feed to my Python program. I've had this going for many months now. In fact, has it been a year? It could have been a year. And what I can do is I can generate these gorgeous images that, well, do exactly that. It shows exactly where I have been and how long I've spent at each one of those places. And of course, I cannot show any of that to you because it literally shows you where I go all the time. It's surprisingly packed with information. So what I'm going to do is, instead of showing you the entire map, I'm going to just crop out a small portion to show you. You have no idea whereabouts this actually is. But yeah, hopefully this little crop shows you that, it is a pretty rich visualization. In this particular showing, the colors correspond to the hours of the day in which I'm actually at a particular place. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. It shows me where I go, and the brighter the dot, the longer I spend at that particular place. I've even wrapped another bit of HTML and JavaScript around it so I can mark out the places that I like, right? Or I've spent a significant amount of time in. I can mouse over and look at those places, and the label will pop up. I can click on it, it'll bring me to Google Maps. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Again, this is tied in with my interest to track data. And the thing is, being a freelance educator that I am, that tracking of data is actually pretty important, right? It actually helps me map out, where are the places I'm supposed to go, how much money am I making for traveling a long distance. Yeah, there is useful information in there, apart from it just being a fun thing, being a nice thing to look at. So yeah, that's another example of a passion project. It's intimately tied in with something I do on a daily basis. My third project here is linked to a different passion project. See, when you do something for fun, you may want to do other things for fun that supports this thing you do for fun. Yeah, something like that. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, I'm running an Instagram account with my girlfriend on the food that we eat. So yeah, it's a food page. I know, extremely original of me. I use hashtags now. But anyway, the point is, well, I'm trying to operate that like, how you would operate a business account. So, well, I don't really know a lot about marketing, but I'm learning a little bit here and there, and that passion project is a good place for me to apply it. So, you know what? Hey, that's an example of a passion project as well, though it's not really programming related. Never mind, we'll shove programming into it. You see, the whole following people thing on Instagram is pretty infuriating at times. How some people optimize for Instagram followers is that, well, they'll follow you, hopefully you'll follow them back, and then after a while they'll unfollow you, which sucks, because past a certain point I'm just following a bunch of people who don't really care about me. Programming to the rescue. What I'm doing here is I have a little bit of code that, well, firstly I need to copy and paste HTML off of the Instagram website. So followers and following, right, I just grab all the HTML and I dump it into my program. Now, I'm not manually scraping this because it's against Instagram policy to do so, and also the page is a little bit hard to scrape because some things are obfuscated. So that part I do it manually. Then I click on a button, and what this does is that, well, it reads out all the usernames that I follow, it reads out all the usernames of people who follow me, and it does a comparison. If a name is in both groups, then good, we are having a symbiotic relationship. If not, something is wrong, and we'll need to, look a little bit further at that. Usually this helps me discover accounts that I've followed that don't follow me, right? And it helps me decide whether or not I should continue to follow them. So yeah, sometimes you write code to support something else that you do. That's one way of having a, passion project, a personal project as well. Okay, two more examples, I'll blaze through these. Since I'm on the subject of my dating life for whatever reason, I also have a simple Telegram bot to, well, make things a little bit easier for me. Speaking of my dating and working lives, how do we get there? Anyway, speaking of that, right, I also have a Telegram bot linked to IFTTT to help me do some things in terms of organization. Now, we've looked at IFTTT recently and how we can use some Python code to support it. In fact, the whole motivation behind why I did that video is because now it's something that I use a lot. I'm not going to show you too much of this because it's very personal. Anyway, this entire setup helps me move things from, multiple instances of Google Calendar to each other. So this helps me synchronize my own calendars, of which I have multiple, with my girlfriend's calendar. And well, we have an idea of when we can meet and when I'll be busy. It helps me set up reminders for each other when we're working on things together. And yeah, it's all tied through a nice Telegram interface, a nice bot that you can talk to. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Not going to go too deep into that. Just know that even in your personal life, right, there are things that can be simplified if you write a little bit of code. Let's move on once again to my last project. This one has a little bit interesting as well. Now, as you know, I have been playing with a 360 camera. This camera captures the world around you in a sphere, and what you can do is you can do some cool little effects where you sort of zoom out and everything looks like this little planet. Now, one thing that really irked me with this is that, well, firstly, there is a PC program by LG, the manufacturer of my 360 camera, that allows you to stitch the videos properly and also to let you view them, not edit them, unfortunately. But even that didn't work. So I spent a lot of time writing code that tried to do stitching together. This particular project really took me out of my comfort zone because, well, there's all the math to, well, map your two fisheye view to an equirectangular view, which involves stitching the two images together. And then you have to take that equirectangular view and map it again to a spherical view so that you can look at it nicely and it doesn't look too distorted. Or you can distort it to your heart's content, right? So the spherical view is a very dynamic way of looking at your 360 footage. Either way, at the beginning, I had no access to any official tools that let me do these things. So while exploring this, I had to use some coding for the GPU, right? Essentially GLSL shaders that help me, play with all the videos so that I can map it in real time. And then all the maths that supported it. That was a pretty tough project to play with. Eventually, that didn't work out very well, right? The code got so messy I wasn't able to proceed. The stitching logic that I used was very primitive, so while it was able to complete quickly, it was not able to do a very good result. So in the end, I went back to the LG software, I faffed around with it for quite a long time, and I eventually got it to work. So now in the end, I'm going back to official tools to do the stitching for me, and for the reprojection, right, turning the equirectangular footage into spherical footage, and then saving that to a file, in the end, I actually used a different program for a different camera. And what this means is, this project in particular was actually a failure. I didn't manage to get, well, the results I wanted. Despite that, it was a very interesting experience. I used a different language, I used GLSL coding. All of that are learning opportunities, right? And if I want to step into another project that uses similar technologies, well, I am now equipped with the ability to do so. Moral of the story, failures aren't bad, right? I mean, you can still learn from them, right? You can still take away something valuable. So those are 5 examples. I think that's enough examples for the day. Maybe I'll mention one more. I also have an app on my phone that helps me with my travel. It helps me figure out bus timings. It helps me track down my expenses. Yeah, again, I like these dashboardy kind of applications where it's one application that does everything. But again, we've rambled long enough, so I'll keep this short. The point is, this particular project was quite an interesting one as well because I learned to use Apache Cordova. I did not learn how to write programs for Android. Instead, I learned how to take essentially a web application and basically wrap it into an app for my phone. So that was an interesting learning opportunity as well. Not only am I using that for other projects, I'm also using that to teach. Apparently, there aren't many classes around here that will cover this particular theme. So what I do is I've written some classes for this. So yeah, you never know what a passion project can lead to. Building something for your personal use could turn into something that you do for business use, right? So yeah, 6 examples. I think that's enough. That's enough rambling on my part. I hope that this has at least, got you thinking about your own things, right? What you do and what you could potentially automate. The thing about passion projects is that you don't know where they're going to go, right? When I built my, exercise bike, right, I never thought I was going to eventually see everything on a tablet. That was not on the cards at the beginning. But things just sort of went that way eventually. The point is, just pick something you want to do and get started on it. Whatever learning, whatever usefulness will come along the way. So yeah, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and just get into it. Alright, enough rambling from me. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this has been at least a little bit of a motivation, a little bit of a push for you. But that's it. Until next time, you're watching 0612 TV with NERDfirst.net. Thank you very much for watching. If you like my work and are feeling generous, you can shoot me a one-time donation on PayPal or sign up for a recurring one on Patreon. Of course, you can simply like, comment, and subscribe. You know the deal. For more videos, links to my channel and a related playlist are on screen. Thank you for your support.